am Denise Chapin, and I am your podcast host for Talking TA. And we are at Transform 2025, and I have with me Sharon Papo, who is the CEO and co-founder of LGBTQ eLearning.
Yes.
So Sharon, we met just a few minutes ago, or maybe an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago by now, and we had an engaging conversation. And so I am so happy to have you here to talk about there's something a little bit controversial right now. In fact, it was going to be one of my questions, DEI. But you have a very unique company, so tell me about it.
I'd love to. So, as the CEO of LGBTQ eLearning, we are building LGBTQ plus inclusive workplaces. So under the umbrella of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, we're really focusing specifically on the LGBTQ plus community.
Okay, very good. So now tell me, coming to a place like Transform, what lessons or what key takeaways are you hoping to get from the conference and be able to take back to your office?
Well, I'm enjoying talking to other thought leaders and finding out how other people are navigating this time. What we are living in a very particular cultural and political time with a lot of backlash against the work that we're doing. And I see companies taking one of four strategies. So some are saying, we are not touching this with a 10-foot pole and we're out. Others are saying, we're waiting and watching. We were doing stuff before and now we just don't know what's gonna happen, and we're watching to see what happens to people who continue and what happens to people that don't. So some people are taking the wait and watch approach.
Sure.
Others are saying, we're gonna continue, but we're doing it quietly. And maybe we're calling things differently, but it's still values-based, and we know that we have a diverse workforce that we want to support and maintain. And then there are companies like Apple and Costco that said, these are the strategies that have built the most innovative, diverse workforce that we have, that have helped us to be successful and create the best products in the world. And we're not changing, we're standing strong. So I see companies taking one of those four approaches.
I love that. In fact, I have been reading, I signed up a few months ago to HR Dive. So they are bringing up a lot of this conversation with CEOs, big companies, medium companies, and getting kind of I guess just maybe a futuristic perspective on what's going to happen. One of the things that's come up a lot has been, how are we going to preserve the programs that are working? And you brought up a good point a minute ago about Apple, and who else did you mention? Costco. Yeah, Costco. In fact, Costco was kind of one of those companies that was they mentioned Costco in one of the articles I read, where they're kind of fighting back because they're saying this has been the success of our company. And there's other people joining them. So now how do you navigate, though, the rest of the landscape and the rest of the environment and share those success stories and share their bravery to keep moving forward with all this fear mongering that's going on?
That is a great and a big question. And I think that each company, first of all, needs to go back to their values.
Right.
What are their values? What's important to them? What's the foundation of their business? Because I think that needs to inform every decision that a company makes. So I think that first there's taking that internal stock of who you are. And I also want to say, this is a moment in time. And one thing is that the pendulum is gonna keep shifting. And what we know when we look at Gallup's 2024 data on the LGBTQ community, especially on Gen Z, which right now is, I believe, 13 to 28 years old. And according to Gallup, Gen Z, 22% of Gen Z identifies under the LGBTQ plus umbrella.
That's amazing.
About half are bisexual, about 2% are transgender and non-binary. So what we know just when we look at the demographics is that this issue is not going away. That is 1 in 5 current or future hires. In 4 years, all of Gen Z will be in the workforce. So we can't legislate away people's identity.
Right.
It's just not how it works. We can make people afraid and try to get them back at the closet. We can do all those things. But I believe this is a moment in time that we have to navigate. But companies need to be thinking about today, and they need to be also thinking about their future workforce. And one thing we know about Gen Z, of course, there are individuals in every generation, so always careful of stereotypes. But on the whole, Gen Z is a more values-based generation. And I see them not putting up with things that older generations have put up with. And they are more likely to choose their workplaces that have value alignment, and they're more likely to leave their workplaces when they don't. And of course, it's not just the 1 in 5 hires who made themselves be part of the LGBTQ plus community, but it's also all the allies, all the people in the generation that say, I don't understand what the big deal is. I want to work in a place where I feel comfortable and my friends feel comfortable, and we just want to do good work. And we just want a workplace that we can show up and not stress out about who we are.
I just want to be treated like a normal human being, period.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think,
strip away all the biases.
And I think as we've had a lot of conversation in our country about the value of freedom and how that is such American value, I hope that we can each have the freedom to be who we are. And when we show up to work, we're here to get a job done, be respectful to each other. But who we are is that we have the freedom to be that. I think it's really important, and I think it's gonna help with recruitment. It's gonna help with retention, and it's gonna help create vibrant workplaces.
So let's talk about what your suggestions are then to companies as you're working with these companies that might be on the fence with how to handle this situation. How are you then guiding companies, and what are your suggestions, and how are you working with them then to kind of help them keep moving forward and not feel like they have to take a step back and put their programs on hold that are working? Right. Because it could impact their bottom line. It will impact the bottom.
Well, I think, again, each company needs to look at their values. Companies do have to right now look at, am I a government contractor? I understand that is impacting the decisions that some companies need to make right now. If you're not a government contractor, you have a lot more freedom in the decisions that you're making. But companies, so the question is, how am I guiding them? I'm asking them to go back to their values and asking them to look at who's in their workforce and what is the culture they want to create? What are they committed to? And what's worked in the past, and how can they move forward? And I think that we know the success of ERGs and how important they are. And so I do a lot of work with Pride ERGs, and sometimes they bring us in for training or for Pride Month or whatever it is, but to have that space where employees can come in together, especially when there is so much external pressure, to have a safe place in the workplace is really important.
Agreed. I remember there's a town in Spain called Sitges, Sitges. And it's on the Barcelona side, just south of Barcelona. And I was there one summer and they had Pride Week.
Yeah.
I have never in my life seen so many incredible Pride, they had a parade and they had all sorts of different just festivals, and it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. But we're talking about people of all ages, right? Not just young people. And here's the thing, all those people, they go home at the end of the day, at the end of the week, and they go back to jobs. And they're part of our workforce. How can we isolate these people, right?
And when companies think of not only their workforces, but also their consumers. And I'll have to say the LGBT community is a very loyal community.
Right.
And
it is.
The pink dollar is a real thing that they, wear when they feel like a company is loyal to them, and they show up with support. Right. And so I think that companies, know who your customers are.
Right.
And that when companies are courageous enough to take a stand of inclusion, people notice and they will show up to support.
Okay, so you said the word inclusion. So I read an article and they had quoted the CEO of Accenture. She had basically taken, and because they're a government contractor, huge government contractor. So they had taken the acronym DEI off the table. and they put in the word inclusion because they said, okay, that can't get us in trouble. It's because we're not using the word DEI. She said, we're going to go ahead and call it inclusion. And that's what we're doing. But at the same time, we're going to go ahead and keep in place some of the programs that we do not want to roll back. Employee resource groups is one of them. And the pay equity was another one because pay equity is so huge right now. Who wants to go back?
Right. Who doesn't want to be paid fairly? I think that's a shared value.
That is a shared value. So those were part of DEI. So now it's almost like they're segmenting DEI to keep it alive, to keep it on not a back burner, keep it on the front burner, but kind of keep it quiet, keep it simmering, so that they don't have to restart everything. Because like you said, the pendulum is going to swing back at some point, and you don't want to have to go back and start everything over again. Not only that, but now you've created this disloyalty with all of these people that were working for you, right? Where now, like you said, if you're brave enough to keep the momentum that you started how long ago, to keep it moving forward, yeah, rename things that you have to. Put things on the back burner that need to be put up back on the burner. But the things that are working the most, that are going to be the most significant, is wrong. Keep that going there.
That's right. And I think that there's so much we can do where everybody wins. And I'm not a fan of these zero-sum games, right? It's like, how do we create workplaces where everybody gets to show up and that we all get to do our best work? How do we do that? And these aren't always easy solutions and easy conversations, but I think we have to get to know each other. We were to talk to each other.
So what about the candidate experience too? Companies who want to hire. Okay, we're talking about companies and their employees. One of the questions that I've been asking guests here at Transform is around the candidate experience. What can we do as HR and TA professionals to improve the candidate experience, not just for people we hire, but for all candidates?
Well, I think that one, for all candidates, I think we want to appreciate them, appreciate their time, appreciate that they're going through this process that's vulnerable. So I think thank you people for their time and getting back to the cook, all that general stuff. But I think when people see other people like them in the workforce, then they also it sends signals, oh, there's a place for me here. I'm not going to be the only one. And there's a place for advancement when I see other people in leadership who maybe look like me or have similar traits as me or same ethnicity or gender or sexuality. And so I think that when companies embrace diversity, then especially at the leadership level, they are more likely to bring in other people and to have the diverse and innovative workforce that leads so many to such great success.
So what is your e-learning exactly? What do you think you're doing with e-learning?
So our course is called Building LGBTQ Plus Inclusive Workplaces. And it's a really excellent 90-minute self-paced e-learning course that covers, first of all, what really sets us apart is that it's not just the information in many courses that deals with terminology and breaks down gender pronouns and the experiences of LGBTQ plus people in the workforce. But we have 16 people sharing snippets of their own story so that we have a whole section that's animated on a day in a work life of a transgender person at work and ways people can show up and ways that things can be really hard. And so we really bring in empathy, and we have 3 dynamic presenters in animation, and we've gotten really great feedback on the course. People really love it, and we're really excited about it.
How can somebody access it?
They can go to our website, lgbtqelearning.com.
Okay, lgbtqelearning.com.
Yes.
I love that. That's awesome.
And we also do live trainings, virtual trainings, consulting, and fireside chats. So we support LGBT inclusion in the workforce in many ways, but we're really excited, especially about our e-learning course.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be hugely successful, especially at the times that, you said you started this business about a year ago, right?
We launched it last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you guys have like a crystal ball or something telling you to launch? Because, all this happened after you launched the business, right?
Yes, when we launched it, some people said, oh, our world doesn't even need it. And we knew that, and we started it because we had personal experiences. I had personal experiences where really hard workplace experiences because I'm part of the LGBTQ community. And my co-founder, Dr. Cornell Verdea Woodson, we joined together to create this really incredible course because we knew that it was going to be a great value, and that a lot of times when people are looking at greater aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion, there wasn't a lot of focus on gender and sexuality. So we felt they were missing a really great product, and so we created it. And I wish we didn't need it so much, but what I can say, even if some companies are turning away, that our resolve and our mission to move this forward, to do this work, to support the LGBT community and thriving in the workplace is even stronger. And we know that's amazing. We're standing with us.
Yeah, good timing. Good timing to start it. Well, thank you so much for for shedding light on this and sharing your company, because I think, again, this is a perfect time for you guys to kind of get your name out there and let people know that you're here.
Thank you
All right, thank you.
so much.
Appreciate it. All right.